As you can see, I hit the rice nail like this. Did you see the needle for about 5 minutes? Like this. Press down. Look at the edges. Wishing everyone a blessed Ramadan. Welcome to the YouTube bakery in the morning. As is our tradition, every year afternoon on Arif and Gul, they even start coming out in our bakeries. Since it's the only bakery on YouTube in the morning, I say it's time to take it out today. Let's start with the preparation. The ingredients I will use: 300 grams of bread wheat flour, 350 milliliters of water, not warm, from the tap, 10 grams and 20 grams of fresh yeast. I'm immediately moving on to kneading the dough. I set it aside in a good place. I pour the flour on my counter. First, with flour and water, I will make the dough. I will tell you the more practical method at the end of the video. If you want to do it in a more practical way, you can do it like this. But if you want the best quality, you should do it with this method. There is no need to knead the dough too much. Kneading for about 2 to 3 minutes is enough until there are no lumps left in the dough. Just make sure there are no lumps when I form it into dough. That's enough. I kneaded the dough like this. I wet the top of the dough with my hand. I cover it with a cloth. I cover the top with a cloth again. The reason for not pressing it is to prevent it from sticking. Now we will let the dough rest for an hour like this. If you prefer, you can let it rest in a container with a lid. Yes, my dough has rested for an hour. Despite my efforts, it has stuck a little. We completed. Now, look at this dough sticking. Let me show you. Did you see? When it is lowered, the gluten in the dough emerges. We achieve fluffier, more delicious flatbreads. I added the salt. I add a little water along with the salt. You don't have to add it, of course, since it softens the dough. Not all flour is the same. You might find that your flour is very strong, meaning it absorbs a lot of water. In that case, you can add a little water to soften it a bit more, because flatbread dough should be soft. After adding the salt, I kneaded the dough for another 3 minutes using the slap and fold method with a dough cutter. Now, there are people who ask if it dissolves in the dough this way. It dissolves easily. As long as you knead your dough well. Also, if your yeast is stale, then it might be a bit difficult. There won't be any problem. If you think it's worth dissolving, you can wet it with a little water, and it will dissolve more easily that way. I don't find it necessary, of course. After adding the yeast, I kneaded my dough for another 3 minutes. My dough turned into a smooth, elastic structure. Now my dough is like this. I have a cotton cloth. I'm placing it inside this. I will let this rise as well. Let it rise in a closed container. Of course, you're fine. Yes, my dough rested for 45 minutes. It has risen. The rising process can vary depending on the air temperature. In summer, if it rises in half an hour, 20 minutes of rising would be sufficient. In winter, depending on the environment we're in, it might need to rise more quickly. I had put 10, it's a bit sticky. Yes, my dough like this, tightly. I pour it into a glass for a mise. Now again, I take this and knead it. Now I will let it rise for about 1.5 to 2 hours. Again, depending on the air temperature. Then I will tap it and make a nice Ramadan Pide. Yes, my pide dough rested and rose for 1 hour and 20 minutes. As you can see, this can vary depending on the air temperature. It can be 1.5 to 2 hours. The environment where it will rise is very important. If you have wheat bran on hand bran. If not, can we use semolina or corn? If you don't have these, then you should use white flour. Semolina makes it crispy, so the edges of the pide become crispy, while the inside remains soft, providing a delightful eating experience. I recommend it. Now let's knead it again like this. Deeply. Lower it while slightly opening it. Now here we have a whole beaten egg. I will apply it to the edges of the pide with the whole egg. If you only use egg, it will be just the egg yolk. However, you need to cook it at a slightly lower temperature so it doesn't burn or boil. I do it this way because I think it's more ideal to prevent it from boiling. On top of the dough, I spread my egg nicely. If you want, you can do the edges like this, by folding them over. Or if you prefer, you can do it without folding the edges. This is a matter of preference. Yes, now I hit one of its nails like this. I hit its nail. You can apply an egg on top again like this to make it a better operation. Now an important piece of information about the pide. If you want the pide to come out like a nice baklava slice, I hit its nail. I can take them all and bake directly, but it's still a bit puffy. If you want a pie to be puffy, but not too visually appealing, then after hitting its nail, let it rise for half an hour, and then bake it for a puffier result. You will get a pide. Now let's do it like this. I am here with my tray. I will place it on this tray. Of course, not everyone may be able to do this. For that, you can hit its nail inside the tray. This way. I sprinkle sesame seeds on top. Like this. I carry it a bit like this. We both know and see, if you want it, for your own baklava slice, let it rise for half an hour. Again, if you press down only on the places where the nail is, it will maintain its shape. This is also a detail. Meanwhile, our baking temperature is 220 degrees. With the candle and steam function, we will use the low steam function. I just baked it for 12 minutes at 220 degrees. As you can see, let me bring it closer. A very nice pide came out. I will break it for you in a moment. I will also show you the texture inside. If you want it to be a bit meaty, by the way, you can roll it out smaller when opening it. And I open it this way so it's a bit more delicate, not too meaty, because I like thin crust. Let me show you the bottom as well. The bottom is like this. We took out a very thin crust. Lower it. What? Will you say? Okay, wait for it to be ready. Won't you do it while it's hot?